Welcome back, everyone, to Common Sense Choices, and I'm Linda Toupin. Today is episode number 19. If you're new, you just stumbled in here by accident or on purpose, but it's your very first episode, pull up a chair and enjoy the conversation. If you're a veteran, you've been with me since December 2nd, 2021, thank you. It is because of people like you that our podcast is getting wonderful reviews and it's growing by leaps and bounds. Remember to like and comment and share because that is how we spread the good news. So thank you. Thank you for making that choice. Speaking of choices, tonight when you lay your head on the pillow, believe it or not, you will have made 35,000 choices. I know, no wonder you're tired. That's why it's so important, you guys, that we pray every day for wisdom and discernment on this free will that we have been given, because that's our choices that we make and they accumulate over time. Some of them seem insignificant, but today by clicking play, we hope that you leave this episode with hope and strategy and that you feel like you're not alone and that there are people out there who are making different choices. And so that is our hope and our prayer. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify or a platform that's allowing you to drive at the same time, you know the rules. Hands at 9 and 3, eyes straight ahead, and enjoy the conversation. If you're on a platform that allows you to comment, and we are on YouTube, and you can access that through my website as well. And then we premiere on YouTube, and we also premiere on my professional Facebook page. Those all allow you to comment. Be sure to comment, because when you comment, like, and share, your name is entered into a drawing every week from my little souvenir store. Well, I'm excited to announce a winner. In previous times, in the previous months, we've had a separate episode to do this, but we're going to start doing it now on our main episode. And so I'm proud to announce our winner from episode number 17, which was with Kirby Kirkpatrick. His topic was 10 things that we can do logistically and emotionally to effectively work from home. And our winner was, drum roll please, Rhonda Cordes, and Rhonda lives in Liberty Township, Ohio. So congratulations, Rhonda. Rhonda's going to be receiving a gift from LindaToupin.com. That's T as in Tom, O-U, P as in Peter, I-N. And over there, we have a little souvenir store with our mantra on it. And so our mantra is over here and over my shoulder on a 7-foot piece of art. It is the foundation for common sense choices. And we're going to say it together. Now I have it on my coffee mug. And by the way, you can have a coffee mug just like my coffee mug and all our guest speakers, because that's their gift. And that little word choices can be in orange and red and green and pink, whatever you want. And so let's say it together with conviction. I am where I am by the choices I've made or I've allowed others to make for me. So let's say it again. I am where I am by the choices I've made or I've allowed others to make for me. And if I want a different life, for myself or my children, in the case of these episodes, I can make different choices. And so while you're over there, there are other items that you can pick up with the mantra. And probably our most popular one is our 8x8 canvas print. You can put these on little stands. You can put them on the wall. And several of you asked me a couple of months ago, can I get a discount if I order several? I want to give them as an incentive or as award them as a gift. And the answer to the question is yes, you may. And so all you have to do is use the promo code LT, like Linda Toupin, 20, and you'll get a 20% discount when you order 5 of one item. Now, I also wanted to bring your attention to, if you've got a bunch of friends and they all want to do this and they all want to order 5, if you order 15, we can have this shipped directly from the manufacturer and we can get free shipping. And so our shipping is just, we're passing on what people are charging us. And so you guys, that would be like a really good thing. I don't know if you all have noticed, but shipping's kind of a big deal these days. And so be sure and use the promo code LT20. Now, while you're over there, guys, at LindaToupin.com, I offer a concierge service for free. I don't know about y'all, but I love concierge services. I like people to pamper me, take care of me, think for me, make my checklist. And every Thursday night at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, I will send you the newest episode and you don't have to think about it. All you have to do is sign up. Now, on your laptop, it's in the upper right-hand corner. There's a big red sign that says sign up. If you're on your phone, it's over in the left-hand corner. There's some little lines. Just click those little lines. Now, you guys, every single week, I answer somebody's question that says, Linda, I signed up, but I'm not receiving them. It is because it was a 2-step system. So when you signed up, we immediately sent you an email. Now, immediate meaning it had to go to the satellite and come back to your laptop or to your phone. So it's not like instantaneous, but in the first few minutes, you will have gotten an email, and that email asks you to confirm that you wanted to receive my emails. And if you skipped that step or didn't find that email, then you're not getting the episodes. So go search for Common Sense Choices. I bet it's there. If you're using Gmail, it may be under promotions. So there you go. All right. Well, for those of you who have just joined us and are new to the podcast, episode 1 through 4 was on mental health and coming straight out of COVID. That was a really important thing. You certainly understand and what's going on with mental health right now, suicides, depression, drugs, etc., out of the 2 years that we've all had to live through. Episodes 5 through 8 were on physical health. Episodes 9 through 16, we addressed the question, what does it truly take to work effectively from home? Because a lot of people came home to work during COVID, and a lot of people decided to stay, and a lot of people decided to run their own businesses from home. And it's a great series with people who have 20 and 30 years of experience running businesses from home. So it's a great series. Episode number 17 was my gift to humanity. It was from my functional integrative doctor, Dr. Lena Edwards. If there is a woman in your life you love and care about, I just encourage you, go get that episode. They live on YouTube. Now, if you can access them through Linda Toupin, it's going to take you to YouTube. So they live on YouTube. They're also on Apple and Spotify. Go get that episode and share it with every woman that you know. And then in May, we started a brand new series that last week where we're talking about parents, children, and schools. And our first episode was with Leah Carta and Katie Ray Van Tagren, and they talked about their decision many years ago to begin to homeschool their children. And if you watch that episode, like, I was jealous. At the end, I was jealous. I was like, oh my word, homeschooling ain't what it used to be. It was like, dang, I would like to have a chance to raise my kids again. That was an amazing episode. And so before we start our episode today, I'm going to ask you to comment, because this is very much audience driven. And so the comment that I would like to hear from all of you is, what educational choices have you made for your children and why? And has it changed in the past 2 or 3 years? So this is a great place for you to share your story of your choices, or maybe you're considering different options. This is your place to do that. And I always interact with my audience and answer your comments or questions. So that's what I'd love to hear from you today, if you're in a place to comment. So before we meet our 2 guest speakers, just real quickly, because I'm going to ask them the same question. And if you watched last week's episode, you saw me answer this or heard me answer this question. I was educated in the public school system in the 60s and 70s, which does not resemble public schools today. We prayed, our hand was over our heart, we said the Pledge of Allegiance, and that was the public school. It was a 2-room school, grades 1 through 5. I think last week I said it was grade 1 through 6. It was 1 through 5. And then I continued on in my public school education in middle school and high school, and then on to college. And then when I got married and had children, my husband, father of my children, was Catholic, so they went to a Catholic school for their education. And then my daughter, her senior year of high school, she was done. Every which way you can be done, she was done. And I wish I knew today what I didn't know then. She was never intended for a regular classroom. Even in grade school, she began to say things to me like, Mom, that teacher took 45 minutes. And I could have said what she said in 5 minutes. And then I had to wait on all them other kids. And she did not like any of the aspects that I personally liked in school, the social aspects, the prom, and all that stuff that went with school. She didn't care for any of it. So instead of a $10,000 a year tuition, her senior year, I pulled her out and figured out she could get a diploma at Indiana University High School online for $645. And you know what? She got up at 4:30 every morning that year. She went and opened at Panera Bread. After she got off, she went and rode her horse. And then she went to Starbucks and did her lessons online, and she made straight A's. And she was the happiest person on earth during that senior year. So clearly, I needed to have made different choices for my child even back then. But today, we're going to meet 2 amazing women I chose these two women because I admire the way they intentionally live their life. They both are executives who work from home. They've started their in-home business years ago. Nothing these two women has ever done was not intentional. And they have taken control of their children's education. And we're going to hear their story of the decisions that they made. I admire them. And you follow them on social media, and the pictures they post is not just the rosy pictures. They're giving you a real look into their lives, a glimpse into the decisions and choices they've made. So would you welcome to the screen today my good friends Auri Hatheway and Leah Lauchlin. Welcome.
Hey.
You guys.
Hello.
Well,
thank you, Linda, for having us.
Oh, well, thank you for giving, God gave us 168 hours this week, and you all have given me an hour here, but an hour in prep time, I'm sure. And I thank you, and my audience thanks you, because you all are just walking hope. That's what you all are, literally examples of hope. So Leah, you live where?
We live in Southwest Ohio. We're in between Dayton and Cincinnati, which are two larger cities in Ohio, but we live in a very small town. And we happen to live on the first agri-community that has been built in Ohio. So we're on a 140-acre farm, and it's a farm-to-table community. Think of a golf course community, but instead of the golf course, it's a farm. And so we have a market that we walk up to each week to get our produce and our eggs and meat and all kinds of things that the farm's producing. And then our home is on 1 acre, but we have access to 140 acres. And so we get to sort of live a farm life experience without the work of farming, unless we want to volunteer on the farm, which is an option, and just live with a lot of like-minded people. It's a big reason we chose to live here, because of the experience that my children would have growing up here. There's about 20 kids on our street, and we do life together. My front door is a revolving door. There's kids in and out all day long. We also have a lot of woods and hiking trails in our backyard. And so the kids truly roam. They roam free on this 140-acre farm. And they're barefoot half the time, and we do life in community. And it was an option and an opportunity that we had, that was a dream I had that I couldn't have even put into words until we discovered this community being built. They are popping up all over the U.S., but it's the first one in Ohio, and it's just been has had a significant impact on our family and how we raise our children.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Thank you. Auri, you're down in Miami, right?
Yes, ma'am. Born and raised in Miami, Florida. We're just a mile from the ocean. And I would love to live somewhere like Leah lives. Absolutely. Yeah. So as a matter of fact, at the end of this year, we just got land in northern Florida, 5 wooded acres, a community where everybody has 5 acres. And my husband started farming during the pandemic. And so, but we were both born and raised here in Miami. Yes, he's been farming and gardening and all of these things. So we're excited about what's to come, but we really live in what was just announced, the most expensive city in America is now Miami. So it's definitely been a different experience here than what Leah has. But we look forward to our new life coming soon.
Well, you all have your coffee mugs this morning. I was so proud of myself for getting them to you on time. I think Jan Thetford was the one. I shipped them too late, and they don't get there. She actually wrote the word choices on a white coffee mug. So I'm glad that you all got yours.
Well, yeah, lipstick stains and all. I already have lipstick all over.
Yeah.
Keep doing that.
Uh-huh.
Well, tell us about your, I went to a 2-room school. I went to a public school. There really wasn't any other choices for me back then, nor would anybody have wanted a different choice. It was, I look back at that two-room school, and there was 5 kids in each class, and they each had a row. And you think about what really happened there. I got to hear every class moving forward. And as I moved forward, I was tutoring the people below me. So it was a very organic, like real world situation. But so tell us your story. So Leah, did you grow up in the public school?
I did. Yep. I went to public schools. I don't think my mom really felt like there was another option. We couldn't have afforded private schools. And I had cousins who homeschooled, but we really viewed that as kind of weird. And that it was like a disadvantage to them. I look back and think much differently about it today, but I went to a public school, but I was a student and a child that public school was made for me. I liked school. I wanted to please my teachers. I was responsible by nature. I could sit down and listen and behave. Whereas my husband had a little bit different experience. And I do think boys in general, just the traditional school setting is not designed for customization to ages or genders or different learning styles. Right. You kind of are expected to sit down, shut up, and do what you're told. And if that's not in your nature, and especially for little boys, I think a lot of kids struggle in a traditional school setting. But I didn't. I was happy. I had a great school experience. My husband, on the other hand, he grew up in South Africa until he was 10, went to a private school, then moved to Canada around 10 years old, and was way ahead of his classmates. And so he got bored very quickly and really did not thrive in school, didn't thrive in that environment, was an incredibly intelligent person, but was not successful in that environment. And there's just no customization offered, which I think homeschooling parents have the option to really cater to their child and their learning style. And that doesn't necessarily happen in every school setting. So,
right. Okay.
So that's a little bit about my background in education.
Okay. Auri, what about you? And Auri, I forgot to tell you when I introduced you, I got dressed this morning with months ago, I thought if I ever have Auri on my show, I'm going to wear the earrings that I took off her ears, and she gave them to me.
I love those earrings.
Oh, wow.
They're so you.
And they're just exquisite, and they weren't cheap, and you just took them off your ears and you gave them to me. And I thought, I picked the wrong outfit today to wear these. But anyway, I wanted to honor you for that. Go ahead. Auri, what was your school experience?
So I feel really blessed because my parents, neither of them graduated from anything, not elementary school. They both grew up in rural, small town farms. My mom in Puerto Rico, my dad in Cuba. So my dad never went to school. My mom only went up through 4th grade. So hearing that growing up, I thought, oh my goodness, I just felt horrible for them. So I had the privilege and the honor of attending a private Christian school, a highly ranked private Christian school, because my mom worked maintenance at the school. So as an employee there, her children were able to go to that school for free. And I think I would have done great in any school because I'm a learner by nature and a nerd. And it was my place to win. I think that it's still a way that I win till this day. I know that's not every student, but I remember my cousins, one's older than me, one's the same age as myself. Every time I'd see them, I'd ask them, oh, have you learned this? Have you learned this? Have you learned this? And I was always ahead of the game when it came to what they knew compared to what I knew. It was just leaps and bounds ahead of them. It was today I can realize even more now that I get to choose curriculum as a homeschool mom, what an excellent education I had. It was superb, top notch. I felt very well prepared when I stepped into college. As a matter of fact, my freshman year of chemistry and calculus and biology, I already knew it all. That's how well prepared I was. And it was not called a college preparatory school by any measure, but it was an excellent school. So I felt very honored and blessed to have had that type of an education, especially considering what my parents had. And my husband attended public schools here in Miami-Dade County all his life. And Shane is quite possibly one of the smartest people I know, but school is not for him. He learns in a very different way, hands-on. He likes to teach himself. He does not like to sit in a classroom. I think your daughter, Linda, reminds me of my Shane, my husband. And so, but that's just not how he learns. He could care less. It definitely was not important to him, because he felt like if he wanted to know something, he would just go figure it out somewhere else and go learn it somewhere else. He's always been an experimental type of learner.
Well, so as we're segueing here, let's talk about the ages of your children first, if you don't mind sharing that on this platform, is their names and their ages. And then after we get that information, we'll switch back and let's find out what choices you've made for them along the line. So Leah, how old are your children?
Yeah, my oldest is a boy. Ian is 11, just recently turned 11. And then I've got Aria, who is 9. And then I've got Eli, who is 7, almost 8. And then we've got Lydia, who is 4, almost 5. And then we've got a little newborn, a little guy. Rowan is almost 4 months now. So
and
that's my crew.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you chose home birth for Roman. Is that correct?
We did. Yes.
Well, because Call the Midwife is like my favorite show on television. And I'm like, yes. Oh my gosh. Well, that's a different podcast for a different
that is right.
All right. So Ari, what about your children?
All right. So Shane and I have 2 children. Haley is 13. So she just finished 7th grade, going into 8th grade, her final year of middle school here. And Gavin is 8 years old, and he just finished 2nd grade, going on to 3rd. And we also have 2 fur babies, my twins. I really wanted more kids, but I had to settle with fur babies. Penny and Cooper.
Well, Ari, while I've got you on the screen, I'll ask you the question first. 13-year-old and 8-year-old, tell us about their journey in schools.
Okay, so because I had such a phenomenal experience attending a private Christian school, I definitely, there's my fur babies if you can hear them. But I definitely wanted my children to have a private school education. To me, it was just superior to the experience I had seen my husband and my friends and my cousins have. So they attended a highly ranked, very prestigious private Christian school whose education rankings were through the roof. And I absolutely loved it there. It was absolutely phenomenal. I have absolutely no complaints about that school. It was an amazing experience. And then when the pandemic came, they did start school again. Obviously we all went to Zoom that March, graduated, finished classes in June. And come the fall, they make the announcement like 3 days before classes start that masks would be mandated. They would be open, they would be on campus, but masks would be mandated. And both of my children have are sensitive children. And so they have sensory issues. And so with sensory issues, you're buying special undergarments, socks, clothes, and keeping any additional clothing on them is not even an option. Like they would rather be cold than put on something extra. It's a real thing. And so having a mask on was not an option. So within 3 days notice, we were like, what are the alternatives? We were kind of like thrown into the only option at that point was doing Florida virtual school, which meant they would be Zooming all year again when 3 months felt like torture, 10 months seemed not even doable to, okay, I guess homeschool is it. And this is how we ended up on this now beginning 3-year journey of homeschooling.
Wow.
Choices.
Okay. Choices. We are where we are by those choices we made or allowed others to make for us. They made a choice about mask and you had to make a choice. I mean, that's what life is. You just summed it up. Exactly.
Yeah, there were no exceptions to the rule, not with a doctor's note, not an attorney's note. There was absolutely 0 exceptions for them. They were not willing to bend in any way, shape, or form for any reason. And so that was disheartening. That was our family for 7 years. We had been there since Haley was in kindergarten. She was about to start middle school. It was devastating that there was no bend whatsoever at all. This was it. You can you can adhere to what they said or there was no allowance?
Well, it sounds to me, Leah, that you just clearly shown us that we are where we are by the choices we've made, or we've allowed other people to make for us. And some people made some choices that you didn't agree with, and and were inflexible. And I mean, that's what I heard from everybody that I've interviewed getting ready for this show. It was the inflexibility of what we went through that forced people into other behavior patterns. And so I'll come back to you, because it sounds like, even though, I'm sure masks are no longer required, you found something that you prefer. So we'll come back to that. So Leah, walk us through your children's journey educationally.
Yeah, they all started out at a small Montessori school in our small community. And it's in this small little farmhouse, very intimate group. There are 3, 4, 5, and 6-year-olds. So Linda, similar to what you described, there were different ages in a classroom, which I think is excellent for any child's education. And so I have a degree in early childhood education and was a teacher for a few years before I started my business. And I knew enough about Montessori and was very attracted to the Montessori concept. And so that's where my children went for preschool. But they only go up until kindergarten. And so we transitioned them into a local private Christian school, which had some pros and cons. To go from Montessori to a traditional classroom was challenging, especially for my 2 oldest, because it's just a very, very different mindset and different philosophies of teaching. But we chose to do that, and my husband and I had commented like, well, eventually we'll transition them into our public schools. We actually have great public schools in our local community, and we had talked about doing that. Well, then the COVID hit, and that conversation ended right then and there, because I saw friends. I have very close friends who have children in public schools. And I just witnessed things that I wouldn't want my children to be a part of and influenced by. And so we have a great Christian school that I was very impressed with how they responded to the pandemic. And I'll just share this. Masks were not enforced at their school. And so my children, although Ohio mandated it, my children went and their teachers didn't enforce it. And so some children and some families chose to wear masks because that was their option, and we chose not to. And we had the freedom and the option to do that. So my children did go back to school in fall of 2021. I did homeschool my oldest for a short little season, but they have been in school, and we have felt like we've had freedom and choices that we have wanted for our family. So that's one reason we're not homeschooling. If we didn't have that school locally, the picture would look different, most likely. And I'll share a little bit more later, just with giving parents hope and choices, because I know sometimes you can hear the options that other people have or they've taken, and maybe you don't have the option for a private school, or you don't have the option or don't desire to homeschool. But there's so many choices we can make as parents to support our child's education. And that's what I want to share. That's the hope I want to give you. If you're sitting here watching this and thinking like, I don't have a great private school option, or I don't think I could homeschool, or don't want to homeschool, or single moms who don't have the capacity to homeschool. I know there's so many different situations that we have. And my hope is that I give you hope that there's so many things you can do in the home, and there's so many strategies and mindsets you can have as a parent. And your life can be an education. Your home environment can be an education, and you can really supplement your child's growth and development in so many ways, regardless of your schooling options. But I'll go into that. That more later.
That'll be a great way to wrap it up with those. Yeah. So Leah, Auri, let's move back to you. And clearly you found something that you really like, because you're not back in the private school that you were in. You decided to homeschool. So tell us why.
Oh my goodness. This is such a phenomenal question, because we really struggled with other things with our children. Our children do not live under the bell curve. And so if you can relate to this, if you've ever gotten that notice from the teacher or the principal, like, we recommend this test, or for you to have your child checked out for this, and the results come back that the way the classroom is set up is not the best place for your child. Oh my goodness. I've been there and done that for so many years. And we're like, okay, like, obviously a lot of these tests reveal where your child is brilliant and gifted, and that's the highlight of it. And then there's the other side of, and this is where they lag, and we need to pick up, and we recommend this therapy and this therapy and this therapy. So when you're paying for a private Christian school to the tune of a mortgage payment every month, and then you tack on all of these therapies, it's like a double mortgage payment. And so that was a financial strain to us as adults and to our child. I had no idea that pressure was causing her to shrink and not shine. I had no idea. I thought it was just putting more tools in her tool belt, but it was making her feel more insecure. And our son started even earlier. He was 2 when he started his first therapies. And really, when I dug into the reason behind all of this, it's very interesting. I'm like, okay, explain to me why it is that our son Gavin at 3 years old needed to take a type of therapy that would help him with his writing. And I said, okay, why does he need to write this much at 3? And unlike Leah, I did not have background in childhood development. Oh, because by 4, they need to be writing this. Okay, and why do they need to be writing that much by 4? Oh, because by kindergarten, they need to be writing this much. And so I went through all with the elementary school counselor. Why is it? Because by 1st grade, they needed this. And by 2nd, it keeps going until 5th grade, right? So then at that point, I said, well, let me go see the middle school counselor and see, why do they need all of this type of writing by 6th grade? And then I had to go see the high school counselor. And at the end of the day, it was because they're making my 3-year-old take therapy for writing, even though his hand bones are not even developed, because 12th graders are graduating from high school and not getting into the colleges of choice. And I just thought the whole thing was so stupid. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, they don't even develop all their little hand bones in their hand until they don't really want to write. It's not and so I've learned that, you know what? My kids are just on time. I have been so empowered by this experience because I've seen my children just absolutely thrive, because I'm able to parent them where they're at and not to them being underneath this bell curve. And so I was just absolutely encouraged by learning. I learned something that children go through these stages. We call them parrot, pert, and poet. And as parrots, they love to learn by memorizing and reciting and repeating and chanting and saying big words. They feel smart and singing to each other and filling in each other's blanks. And none of that really has to do with a lot of writing. They really pick up writing on their own around 7 or 8. And true to cause, last year, Gavin was 7. Pretty soon, instead of drawing pictures, he was writing. He was writing signs for things, putting them on the walls, writing me notes. I mean, he was writing things all the time. It was like they knew, like a magic little crystal ball. They can look into the future and see. And then there's the PERT stage. And this is like 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, where they're naturally argumentative and they're questioning the world around them. And so we've learned to teach and to work, and work is accomplished through questions and conversations. Let me tell you, my daughter and I, we spend all day together. We have had some awesome, phenomenal conversations, and she'll argue with me. I said, great, go do some research and write a paper on it. I mean, right now she's going to be doing a research paper on germs because she's not really understanding what I mean, what clean is. Okay. She's like, Mom, it's clean. I'm like, do you understand how bacteria travels? Obviously you don't. Like, go do some research. And then the final stage of learning is the poet. And these are like the older teens, and they enjoy being rhetorical because they long to express themselves. We know teenagers want to express themselves. And so teaching them how to solve problems creatively and giving them the space to express themselves rhetorically with words that have grace, and being able to listen to others. And so I'm just seeing my children blossom, where my children were needing so much therapy. This year, Gavin, it was his first year in this homeschool community that we're a part of. He received an accolade called a Memory Master, which means that he was able to recite from memory absolutely everything he learned this year. It took him almost 2 hours. He had to do it 4 times, first with his teacher, who's his father, then with an adult, then with his tutor from his community, and then with the community director. And that's true learning, because when you're taking a test, if it's fill in the blank, if it's multiple choice, they could just be good at strategy. There's leading questions, there's words. And so to think that I cried as much as I did, knowing he's got to go to one more therapy, and now to see him totally excelling, yeah, I would say I found my home. I would say I'm excited to be able to parent my child, that they're not late and they're just on time. I feel so encouraged, and I want to encourage parents to know your children are not late. They're just on time, and just because they're not under the bell curve, they have their genius and their brilliance, and they will find their way when they feel confident enough to.
Yeah.
So to close out your section there, Auri, if I'm out here and I'm realizing I've got to make some different choices, and I don't know if I can do homeschool. You said there's 3 things that people always ask you about homeschooling. Will you discuss those 3 things?
Yeah, the first thing they say is, oh my goodness, good for you, but I'm not smart enough, or they think they're not smart enough. And we all want something better for our children, but am I that better thing? Am I enough? And I just want to say, God trusted you to be their parents. And they didn't come with a little instruction manual. And really, is that not all you need to know to be reminded that you were their first teacher, and you're the most influential person in their life and most important? And so I may not always be teaching, but rather I'm learning alongside of them. I want to remind you that at this point in history, there have never been more resources available to parents who want to teach alongside of their children. The resources are endless, amazing, incredible. I've learned so much. The second question I get asked is, yeah, but are my kids going to be socially awkward? Should I choose to homeschool them? And I would go on record for saying there has never been a better time to homeschool, because there have never been more people homeschooling. So the socializing is endless. We have a much bigger social life now. Our children are constantly socializing, and with cooler things. I mean, it's just an amazing opportunity. And we did homeschooling by ourselves because we couldn't find a community, because everybody was on Zoom our first year, and we didn't want to be a part of that. So we road tripped a lot. But this year we're in a community, and it's so much fun. Like, what Leah was saying, like, it's a revolving door. The kids are always around. We're always bussing each other's kids around. So there are people that will do life with you. And the last question I get asked a lot is, what if I have a full-time job? Well, in my community, we have a rather large one, a couple hundred students, but from 2-year-old all the way to high schoolers, 18, the majority of them, remember, we live in Miami, the majority of them have a full-time job and career. I mean, one of them, my friend, is even a doctor. She's a podiatrist, and her husband is a world-known chef. And so I just say that because there's hope that you can step out and live a life of conviction and not of convenience. We really do get out what we put in. And you did an episode on mental health. And this topic of mental health is at the top of employee human resources concerns. If there was ever a time that you were going to have a conversation with your employer, and if there was ever a time that they would be willing to work with your schedule, 2022 is that time. Because they have it on the top of their radar to increase the quality of life for their employees that want it. And if this would increase your quality of life and your child's quality of life, I would not write it off the table. I would bring it up. I would express it to them. I would let them know, because you just don't know how they could possibly work with you. I mean, we have parents who do opposite schedules. They do some online courses with their kids. They're just there to answer the questions. They don't sit there and teach them all day. I have a lot of friends that actually homeschool high schoolers. I think that's where people freak out. Like, do I really want to send them to that high school down the street? And could I really teach them physics? But you're not really teaching it to them at this point. They're learning it. You're there to be their buddy, their confidant, their answer questions, to dig into it with them. And so I would say, if there's ever been a time and it's in your heart, I would definitely go pray about it and take a step of faith forward with getting more information, so that you can feel equipped and not just making a decision out of fear because you don't know. Go do some research and find out what you can.
Well, and I want to remind my audience that both of these women work from home. I mean, these women have full-time jobs as well. They just happen to run companies and businesses from their home. So, Leah, what would you say in your closing remarks? Let's go back to what you were talking about, advice that you had for parents.
Yeah. So I'll forever be grateful for what's happened over the past 2 years because it was the perfect disruption, especially for parents of school-aged children, to more critically look at their child's education and what they want for their children and how their children learn. And it was, and I think my mindset, and I think a lot of other parents' mindsets is, well, that certain parts of their education and schooling, that's in the hands of professionals. And of course, you supplement at home, but I think we sent our kids to school to be taught by teachers. And now it's different. And now I think parents are more empowered to educate their children at home and far more interested in what's being taught at schools, how it's being taught, what's in the textbooks. Like we're on it now. And I don't know that that was the case as much, 3 years ago. And so I just want to speak to people who maybe aren't homeschooling, or they do like their option, that their kids are attending a school that they like, and which is our situation. So I just want to give you some ideas of how you can make your home and your environment a place of learning and education, and you can support and supplement your children. You want to create microcosms for them as much as you can. So that's like a self-contained small version of something far more large and complex. Okay, so like a fish tank would be a microcosm, right? It's a small self-contained thing where you can see a much larger complex, you can learn about a more larger complex thing through the fish tank. Okay, so you can do that in your home. A lemonade stand is the perfect microcosm where they're learning budgets and profits and expenses and customer service and how to build relationships within the community. So that's something easy you can do. Team sports is a great way to teach education and life skills to your children. Even a garden, having a garden in your backyard. Playing with neighborhood kids of a variety of ages, giving them plenty of playtime with siblings, with other friends. They learn relationship skills and conflict management and independence and responsibility. So give them time to roam and have that free time in that space. There's a lot of learning that happens with children within that time. My kids one time did a mock restaurant where our home was the restaurant and we were going to be the guests, and they did everything that you would happen in, to the point they actually made us drive away from our house. We had to circle the neighborhood, and my husband and I come driving back into our driveway and went through our front door. They greeted us and they had the menu made and the prices set, and there was a server. My youngest was the restaurant dog. So she pretended to be this little puppy the whole time. That was her role that she played. And so finding fun things to do like that, using your trips and your travel as education. We're going to take an RV trip out west to go see Mount Rushmore. And so right now we're reading books about the presidents on Mount Rushmore, reading all the interesting facts about Mount Rushmore. We're going to watch a documentary on how they built it. And so we're learning about it. So then when they get there and get to see it, it just comes alive for them. We're also going to do scrapbooking and PowerPoints throughout the whole trip. For every hour of learning and education, kids need at least an hour of reflection and time to process. And that's something, unfortunately, that doesn't happen in traditional schools. They just zoom through the curriculum and the content so quickly that children don't get a chance to process. And it's in the processing that they retain and remember. Studying for a multiple choice test and cramming and memorization, sure, they could ace the test, but did they remember any of it? Did they have a chance to apply any of that knowledge? And so giving kids the chance to process things through a scrapbook, through a PowerPoint. If you go out to a theater or a movie or go have an experience, go out to dinner afterwards. Ask them questions. What did you think? What did you learn? You can do that at dinner time. We always do highs and lows at dinner. Like, okay, tell me your highs and lows. What was the high point of your day? What was the low point of your day or your week? And so staying in conversation with your kids to give them a chance to process. Give them opportunities to do age-appropriate, meaningful work. You will not see a child's confidence and responsibility grow faster than when they have a chance to do age-appropriate, meaningful work. And something as simple as walking a neighbor's dog, mowing the grass, clearing the driveway, doing their laundry, teaching them to do their own laundry, so they have that responsibility. And you watch it happen. They're like sponges. They just soak that stuff up, and you watch them build their confidence. And when kids feel a sense of responsibility, they are more responsible. Like, responsibility begets more responsibility. So creating opportunities like that. Books, and reading aloud. We go to the library once a week, and on the coffee table and the fireplace, in our living room, there's just stacks of books, all kinds of books, so that it's easy to just sit down and read. Reading aloud to them, then picking up a book to read. So we always have a rotating stock of books happening in our home, and often evening time is read aloud time. Reading aloud to your children is incredibly effective and just a good time to bond and connect. Audible is your friend, because it's somebody else reading aloud to your child. And so we've got Audible always going in the car when you're driving to and from. There's no better way to have a peaceful car ride with all your children than to turn on a really good book on Audible. They calm down, they're interested, they're not fighting, they're not complaining. So have Audible books. There's so many good series for children that they can listen to. One thing I have made a list of that I'm always adding to the list is things I want to teach my children before they leave my home. And then they also have a list of things I want to learn. Just anything that interests them. My 9-year-old daughter wants to be an actress. She loves being on stage. She's very expressive. And so going to the local theater and looking for opportunities for her to grow in that passion. But some things on my list are, this summer, we're going to do dining etiquette, how to sit down at a restaurant and just know how to operate, how to behave in that environment, and what all the forks are for, and how you sit down and you put your napkin on your lap, and just those basic things. I want them to have confidence when they have opportunities outside of the home and other dining experiences. And so we're going to watch a couple YouTube videos, and then at the end of the summer, we're going to take them to a really nice restaurant and give them the chance to celebrate what they've learned and to have that experience. So that's another way you can teach them. You can teach them money management. We have jars. They have their spending jar, their tithing jar, and their saving jar. And my oldest is really into, like, he likes to make money. He wants to make money. He's interested in it. He kind of forced me to open Roth IRAs because he wanted to see his money grow and understand the stock market better. So you can have Roth IRAs for your children. So we open that up, and part of his money goes into that, and he gets the statement and gets to see how it grows and how the stock market impacts this small little stash of money that he's building. So things like that, how to keep a planner, how to do time management. Just some basic things that equip because remember, we're raising adults, not children, right? We're raising adults to be successful, productive, to contribute, to be responsible, to be a meaningful part of society. And so I'm always thinking, not what do my kids need? What do these adult children need to be equipped with? And skills like this, we can easily implement in the home. And then I'll finish with this comment. And a mom shared this with me years ago, and I have latched onto it, that more than we need to protect our children, we need to equip them. And I know the natural tendency of parents is to protect and maybe hover or keep them away from certain things that we want to protect them from. That's natural. And there is that role that we play as parents, but more than that, we need to equip them for this world that they're going to go out into to be leaders, to be a light, to be salt, to be responsible, to be contributors, to be energy givers. We need to equip them for that. And I think there's so many things we can do in the home to equip them for that. And then, okay, really the last thing I'll say is to the parent who has kids in the public school system. And maybe that's your only option. And maybe that's your situation. We need leaders, and we need a light, and we need Christians in public schools to be salt and light and to be influencers in that space. And so I want to encourage you, if that is your situation, you just raise up leaders and warriors to go out into that space and to be salt and light and hope to the kids they influence. And if that's the role that they play, and that's the situation that your family is in, be empowered and have hope. And don't be discouraged, knowing that your kids can be leaders in that space. So,
all right, awesome. Thank you so much. Auri, do you want to contribute anything based on what Leah just said?
Yes, I'm going to say ditto to everything Leah said. I absolutely love her. Absolutely have always loved her, and grateful to be able to call her friend and cherish her living her life of convictions always. I knew that stepping into this new season of our life, we did set goals. And I think that these are goals that any parent can have, regardless of their circumstance or situation, to empower all of us. And I would say our first goal is to always be the leading influence in our child's life. And how do we remain that voice? I think every tip Leah just said, at the root of it is intentionality, 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 right? Like the intention is always there to be the leading influence. And when our children see us put forth this effort, I'm going to promise you that what was said at school is overridden, because what you're doing shines so bright, they can't hear what other people are saying. So I want to encourage you to not live a life of fear, because your intentions will reap a harvest. Absolutely. The second thing is we wanted to allow our children to have an excellent education with a biblical worldview. And so what comes with that biblical worldview, I know that Leah tapped into this a little bit, but I want them to graduate with wisdom and not just knowledge. You know, wisdom is knowledge applied. And I have to tell y'all, my daughter was a straight A student. Outside of the bell curve, straight A student. Why? Excellent test taker, phenomenal test taker. Ask her 3 months later, couldn't tell you a thing. And so I wanted her to graduate. I want her to finish school with wisdom. And you know, if you are a teacher, or you know a teacher, they'll tell you in college, they tell you, okay, first thing of teaching is you tell them what you're going to teach them. Then you teach it to them, and then they have to teach it back to you. And we've resorted to testing to see if they could teach it back to us. But is that enough of a measure? What can you do to see if your child has applied what they've learned? And then I want them to graduate with character and not just content. Content is worthless. They could just Google anything. The character that we're developing to learn to wrestle with truth, that promotes blessing and virtue to the entire community. And when those conversations are happening at home, I promise you, they bring them back to whatever situation they're in, whether it is in the public school or even a private Christian school, right? And our final goal, which I think, again, all of us can have these goals, is to have the opportunity to experience the world and make it fun. My daughter thought learning was having a book and a curriculum and taking a test and getting good grades, and that was it. And I wanted her to learn that the world is where you learn. It's not a book. It's not a class. It's not a curriculum. For her to see the world. And I see my children now see the world as their classroom. And I think Leah just gave you guys phenomenal ways to be able to accomplish all of that, that the world is our classroom and learning is fun. That was a huge goal for me. I wanted learning to be fun and for my kids to want to learn. And so we're driving places now and they're looking out the window and they're connecting things and they're saying things like it's happening all day long. They're not just completely turned off by this learning experience. So I wanted them to become hungry for learning at the end of the day. So I think that these are goals that all of us as parents can have, regardless of the choice that is currently happening in your life on how they are being educated, and to remember that you can turn anything into fun. And I think that at times that I'm empty, tired, I'm like, I am not creative, I just get down on my knees and pray. Like, God, inspire me with wisdom because I need it in this moment, because you know, and you entrusted this child to me. So I trust you to fill in the gap here where I cannot. So I just want to share, have goals, sit down with your spouse if you have one, and write down goals of what it is you want your children to leave your home with. And Leah, I'm taking from you, I'm going to go ask my children what they want to leave our home with too. I love that. That was beautiful.
Oh my goodness, you guys. I'm almost in tears just even listening to both of you. I mean, sometimes we can look out over the world and think, oh my gosh, we are just headed for a cliff somewhere, and it doesn't look promising. And then I hear wonderful people like you who are raising children in what appears sometimes to be a dark world. And I think, okay, God, you've got this. And these women here today have given so many people who are listening and that will be listening hope that no matter your situation and no matter how abundant or limited your choices are, you can turn it into something really, really good. You guys, thank you both so very, very much for being here today. You have blessed me, obviously, with your time and your wisdom and just your friendship for, I think I've known both of you for probably 15 or 20 years at least, and gained so much from you. And you give me so much hope for the future. And I know that you will for everybody else. So thank you both for being here with me today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Linda, for the opportunity.
Well, you guys, we're going to continue on this series. We're going into an episode in the next few weeks on school boards. We're going to meet two women who actually took the matter into their own hand. And I believe it was talked about by both of our speakers here today, that it's like, if that's your choice, then we've got to become leaders in the public school system. We have to bring our bright, shiny light to the table, and they are rocking the world across this nation in school board elections. And we're going to meet two women who did that as well. And later on this month, we're going to meet a woman who's involved in a legacy organization that works with grandparents on being more involved in the spiritual upbringing of their children. And so we've got lots of good episodes coming up, but thank you all so much for viewing today. And remember to like, comment, and share, and we will see you next week. Thank you, Auri. Thank you, Leah.
Thank you.